If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Selena Sanders with the Commissioner's Report, 101.9 Interstate Live Radio. You're tuned into the Commissioner's Report with Commissioner Elena Sanders. Stay tuned, stay locked. Be right back. Don't go nowhere, y'all. Hello, everyone. This is Commissioner Elena Sanders out of Newton County, Georgia. And today we are doing a workshop, a webinar on home buying process in Georgia. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this workshop is because I have had conversations with some of my constituents, my neighbors, who were speaking on being renters. And when I heard the astronomical prices that they were paying in regards to renting a home versus purchasing a home, it was just shocking to me. And when I told them how much I actually pay for my mortgage with the amount of home that they're actually paying for in rent, their questions were, well, how can I purchase a home? And one of the main things is that a lot of people don't have the knowledge and the insight of how to purchase a home or feel that they can actually go about doing that. So I reached out to my good friend right here, Will Walker, who is a real estate mogul who knows everything about real estate, especially here in Georgia, to give us some information for those who are looking to purchase a home. They can have that first step to getting there. So I want to introduce that to you today, Mr. Will Walker.
Thank you so much for having me, Elena. And hello, everyone. I am so glad that you took time to just get some information. We're not going to hold you long. We want to give you some bullet points on how to get started. Elena, when you reached out to me, I was really excited about doing this because I think that home ownership among people and people's scaredness to go out and purchase a home. They're not scared to go and get an apartment, but they are scared to get a home. They're not scared to rent, but they're scared to start the process. So we want to let you know it's a lot easier than what you think it is, and you will find the information that we're giving you. And we actually will have this information, the bullet points will be listed on Commissioner Sanders' page also in her resources, so that you can go back and by the end of the webinar, you'll be able to reach out to me if you have any additional questions or you want to go ahead and get the buying process started. Awesome. Again, thank you for having me, Elena.
Yes, thank you for being here. So what we're going to do, we're going to make this, I'm going to be the guinea pig. So I'm going to be the scenario. So just imagine that I'm a first-time home buyer. I'm inquiring about purchasing a home. What would be my first step in order to get there?
Well, the first step in the home buying process, Elena, is to establish what you can afford. What we do in that situation is when people reach out to me and say, hey, Will, I want to get a house. I saw something and blah, blah, blah. I'm ready to move. I'm always like, hey, have you been pre-qualified? Have you spoken with a lender to get you pre-qualified to figure out what you can afford? That is the first step. Figuring out what you can afford, getting pre-qualified, getting your 2 months of bank statements or your 2 years return, depending on what kind of loan you're doing, whether you're self-employed or whether you are a W-2 employee, getting that pre-qualification, you come back and say, hey, Will, I have this much. Then we have something to work with and we can move forward in the process.
So let's start with the W-2 employee. We're going to get a lot of those because that's a lot of my neighbors. They are working for someone and receiving a W-2. So what would that process be for them? Okay, of course, they have to make sure they verify their income and various things of that nature. Walk that step through them from the beginning.
Now, the pre-qualification is, strangely enough, not much different than getting qualified for an apartment, okay? The process, when you're speaking with the lender, the process is a W-2 and the last 2 years of bank statements, if you're self-employed. You need 2 years of taxes, like I said, a year-to-date P&L if you are self-employed, and a 60-day P&L if you are self-employed.
So explain what a P&L is, because those who may be working for someone probably had no idea what a P&L, but I know those who are self-employed will provide that P&L. So kind of explain what that acronym stands for.
Okay, P&L stands for profit and loss, and that would be a profit and loss statement. So basically, when you're a W-2 employee, what you make on your paycheck is what you make on your paycheck. When you're self-employed, that P&L says, yeah, I made $100,000, but I only made $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 in profit. That DTI, which is debt to income ratio, is the numbers that are going to be used just like it would be in comparison to a W-2 to establish what you're able to purchase and what you can afford on a monthly basis. And that is what will be used to qualify you. So in the same way, those two are not very far apart. If you are a W-2 employee, you just need your W-2s. Then there are other programs, which of course we'll discuss later on. There's quite a few programs. Speaking of W-2, there is a program now that is very popular with FHA called a bank statement program. Now, the bank statement program allows you to forego a lot of the credit requirements, and you can use 12 to 24 months of bank statements, whether they be personal or business, and your maximum DTI is 45%. Now, that can get very, very complicated if you're trying to calculate it. Don't worry about calculating it. The generality of what people need to know is, do you have 12 to 24 months of bank statements? We start there, let the lender do the calculations. And in that program, it's amazing because no tax returns are required. So that gets people in the door, pre-qualified and ready to go out with an agent or go out and speak with an independent owner to purchase.
Now you speak of pre-qualifying. So do you suggest that a person get pre-qualified first before looking at that house? Because I can tell you from when I first bought my first home, I went out home shopping, went and saw the home that I wanted. And then when you get to the pre-qualifying stage, you realize your income, your debt to ratio cannot afford that home. So now as a person who wants to buy a home, you're sad because you thought you found your dream home. What is the importance of getting pre-qualified first and then going to search for that home?
Well, you know, I'm very raw and honest, Elena. So I just have to be honest and tell your audience this. Listen, don't window shop, people, okay? Know what you can afford. Agents get very frustrated, especially in this market. This is a seller's market. Inventory is low, but there's a lot being built. There's a lot in pre-construction. Agents are overwhelmed with offers, with people coming in. They want to shop, they want to buy, they want to buy. You need to know what you can afford when you get there, because the agent, if they're an experienced agent, is going to ask you for a pre-qual letter, because they're not going to take you to a $500,000 house when you can afford $200,000. So be real with yourself so that you don't end up in foreclosure with what you can buy. So when you show up with, you pre-qualify for $275,000, $300,000, that agent is going to try to put you something within 80 to 90% of what you can qualify for, get you into something that you can afford, and then you'll be happy. And the qualification process is a lot simpler from there.
So Will, do they pre-qualify through the agent or they have to go out and find a lender? Can you explain how do they go through that process? We're just going to break that down ABC style.
Absolutely. You need to pre-qualify with the lender. The agent is going to, what I would say, what I would self-diagnose this term as, they're going to fill the order. So when I say that, I mean the agent is going to come in and say, okay, you're pre-qualified now for $300,000 or whatever that amount is. They're going to fill that order. They're going to only show you houses within your price range so that you can slim down the time. And if you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Conyers, or a 4-bedroom, 2-bath in Duluth or Dahlonega, wherever you're looking for it, they're going to narrow that down for you so that you're not frustrated in the process of trying to look at properties, you fall in love with it, and you can't afford it.
Right. So
they're going to show you what you can afford in your price range. And people, do not be disappointed if you pre-qualify for a lower amount than what you thought you could, because there's a lot of beautiful homes, beautiful condos all over Georgia in the metropolitan area that are new, that have maybe even be possibly renovated, that have a lot of equity, that are beautiful homes that you can qualify for in your price range. So don't be disappointed, because I have to bring that up, Elena, because a lot of people are not mindful of the fact that when they go to get pre-qualified, especially if they're a first-time buyer, they have these huge aspirations. Mm-hmm. The first aspiration is to attain home ownership.
Right.
After that, it may become an investment property. It may be passed down to your children. You get a better job, better career, business starts looking up, you may get a bigger home. But ownership is very, very necessary. And we'll go into a few more reasons why a little later.
Now, you were speaking on the debt to ratio. Let's talk about the credit score, because in order to get that pre-qualification, there is a credit score that a lot of these lenders are looking for. Can you actually explain that, and also kind of touch on how they can better their credit a little bit in that area?
FHA minimum guidelines start at a 620 credit score. 620 will get you in the door to get you pre-qualified. The better your score is, the better the interest rate, and the better the terms of the purchase and the pre-qualification that you'll get.
That's awesome. So now that they're pre-qualified, what's the next step?
Now that you're pre-qualified, you're going to take that pre-qualification letter and you're going to reach out either to an agent or to someone you've already spoken to about a property. And you're going to say, hey, this is what I'm pre-qualified for. This is what I want to see. I want to be in this area. This is how many bedrooms. This is how many bathrooms. This is what I need. I need this kind of school system because I have middle-aged kids or high school kids. Whatever that criteria is, don't be afraid to throw all of that at your agent and say, this is what I need. Because you can find the perfect house in a horrible school system, and you got 3 kids that are under 12. Mm-hmm. And now you got a decision to make that you don't want to make. So put all the details out to the agent with the pre-qualification letter, and the agent's job is to go out and find you what you're looking for.
Interesting you said that, Will, because when I bought my first home, I didn't think about school systems. I didn't think about all of that. Of course, I didn't have a child then. I was single during that time. No children at that particular time, but that's a good motive, I would say, a good idea to go ahead and look at school systems, shopping areas, what's around there, what's in the area that you want to be, And I also heard this, Will, and tell me if this is a good thing as well, that you go look at that home at nighttime. Once the home that you go look for, it's better go look at it at different times of day. Explain why that is so important.
Because you need to know the culture of the neighborhood. If you are a person that's all about quiet and you love serenity and you want to have your windows open and you want to be so zen and you want, if you're going to live at the lake and you actually want to see the lake, you need to see it at night so that you know that your neighbors are not barbecuing all night and having parties. You need to be mindful of those things. You need to know, do the people around you, are the entrances blocked coming into your subdivision? How good is the security? If it's a gated community, how easy is it for people to just drive in at night? If security is your mindset and you have kids and you want your children to be able to ride their bicycles in the cul-de-sac at 8:00 while you're fixing a late dinner or whatever, and you're concerned about safety, it's important that the gate is not up like this at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and people can just drive through your community. Those things are very important. So you need to be mindful of the culture that you're moving in.
That's interesting. I love that, the culture that you're moving in, because there's a lot of things that come into play when purchasing a home. And so now let's go to the part where, now that we're pre-qualified, we found that agent, what is the next step?
Well, once you have pre-qualified, you found the agent goes out and shows you something and you say, this is it, this is the property. The agent is going to go ahead and generate an offer for you. Once that offer is generated, it's going to give the terms saying, hey, I'm going to offer you either what you're asking, the asking price. Let's say if the price is $300,000, I'm going to offer you $300,000 because I'm qualified to close on it. Or the agent may suggest, hey, this property has been on the market for such and such amount, or for this long, I think they'll take less. Why don't we offer them $290,000 and see if they'll go for it? Whatever that is, that offer will be generated and put together by the agent. Usually the offer requires, if accepted, a 1 to 2% earnest money deposit. Now, anyone that doesn't understand what earnest money is, in simple terms, I promise that I am going to go through with this process, or you can keep the money for me wasting your time. That's
Say that again. Say that again. Say that again.
I promise.
Okay.
I'm going to go through with this process, or you can keep the money for wasting my time. Okay.
Thank you for breaking that down in layman's terms.
I'm just going to break it down like that because it's no different than you applying to an apartment complex and paying a $500 application fee. And you know that you're not qualified. They don't want 100 people coming in there that don't have the credit. So if you apply and you're declined because you got a 205 credit score and you knew that going in there, then guess what? That $500 was the cost of you going in. In the same way with earnest money, you have to be mindful that these people are requesting multiple offers. They're entertaining multiple offers, and your seriousness is in your pockets. So that 1% earnest money is something else that is required at the time. Now, once you have secured the property with the earnest money, you need to order an appraisal. In Georgia, depending on the home, the appraisal can range between $500 and $800. That can be on the smaller end. For a smaller property is the $800 is something that's, gargantuan. It is really, really big. One key point that I definitely want to point out, and a lot of agents and brokers will not tell you this: get a home inspection. This is extra money. I know this is extra money, but this inspection can be, between $400 or $500 on the average for a home inspection. Let me tell you why that's important, Elena. Because the home inspection points out some of the character flaws in the property that the appraisal may have missed. And I'll give you an example. You ever go to a property and you pull up, or you go to a friend's house and you pull up and you see there is a big crack going from the street all the way up to their door. It's no big deal because they live there. But if you are planning on purchasing a home in that area and you see a crack going up the driveway, that home inspection will put a fine-tooth comb on that crack and say, you know what, that crack is coming from a sewage line, or that is an environmental issue. That crack is a pipe that's going into the floodplain of the lake behind you, or it's going into the golf course. If you purchase a home and it's on top of a sewage line and there's an issue and that sewage line is going under your living room, the city has the right to come in under eminent domain and dig up your living room. So be mindful of what you are purchasing. So the appraisal and the home inspection is a surefire way to know that I'm getting something good, everything is good. And if it still goes left on you, your title insurance and your homeowner's insurance is on the hook for the repairs.
Now, I pay attention to everything that you're saying, but those who may not understand various vocabularies, you mentioned eminent domain. Break down what that is so that we're breaking this down an ABC 1, 2, 3 style so that everybody can understand it from the basic standpoint. This is why we're going through this. So explain what eminent domain means.
So to simplify that, it basically says that, listen, this sewage line concerns the whole neighborhood, or this issue concerns the whole neighborhood. So this county or this city or this principality has the ability to come in and fix what needs to be fixed, because it doesn't just affect you, it affects every home. It affects every lake, every driveway, it affects every school, and it's a part of the taxable issue in that area. And as a commissioner, you know how that goes. You look at the budgets and you see Stuff is falling apart. Nobody fixed it. What am I going to do now? Now it costs the county. Now it costs the city. Now the HOA is involved. All of those things, if not addressed, they've raised the price of the insurance. They've raised the price of the homes. They raised the risk factor and lowered the property values in the homes if not addressed. So every time you get a property, get an inspection to avoid these issues that will eventually come up. You remember our mother used to say, Elena, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So spend the $500 now to avoid a $30,000 problem later.
Now, you said a word that a lot of people are not aware of. You said HOA. Now, before we get to the table, to the closing, they have to know about the Homeowners Association. I even get calls as a commissioner about HOAs, and that's private property. I can't really get involved in various things unless it's dealing with the county or affecting safety. But explain when when individuals go into a subdivision that has a Homeowners Association, what happens and what is a HOA?
Okay. The HOA, just in case, HOA stands for Homeowners Association. The Homeowners Association is responsible for setting the rules and the agenda for the neighborhood to kind of make sure everything is cohesive. The HOA is responsible for, they charge a fee, by the way. In a lot of communities, there's a fee. There's an association that votes on what is necessary and what is feasible for the area. Let me give you an example. You may go into an area, and I know that people have been into communities where all of the properties, the grass is kind of cut the same way. In all of the areas, there are certain HOAs that forbid certain colors. You cannot have a harsh color. You don't want to buy a $2 million house across the street from a house that's lavender and blue with freckles and diamonds on the door, okay? Because it kills the value of your property. So the HOA sets in the guidelines for what is appropriate for that subdivision, and they set a fee. Some HOAs say, hey, you can cut your own grass. We don't care. It's no big deal. Some HOAs say, no, just pay the HOA fee. The grass gets cut twice a month. You know, some are more controlling than others, but they are all there to establish a baseline. And that baseline is necessary. So don't be afraid if you have an HOA when you are looking at a property, because they are there to protect you in case something goes wrong. They are there to make sure that things go right.
Awesome to hear about that, because a lot of people don't understand the importance of HOAs. And when they actually get to the closing part of the purchasing a home, and we'll get there, they're like, what is this additional fee that we have to pay for? So now we went through the pre-qualification. They've gotten an agent. They found the home. Now we're going to closing, to where they say you may have to pay a closing cost or closing fee. What if they can't afford that closing fee? Explain the closing costs, as well as any programs they may can go and receive as a first-time home owner or buyer.
Okay, now with the closing costs, I think a lot of times people skip over the closing costs.
They do.
With FHA, you're looking at a 3.5% down for the FHA program. And when we say plus closing costs, that closing cost on average is about 1.5%. So if you're closing on a house, be ready with 5%. Okay, so $200,000 house, $10,000. Is that right? 5%. Okay, $200,000 house, $10,000. Okay, be ready with that closing cost. Now there are quite a few. There are quite a few programs that are out there. I will give you two programs that I really, really want to bring up that I don't think a lot of people are considering when they're looking for a property. One of the programs is called Georgia Dream, and we will put these resources on Commissioner Sanders' website. One is called Georgia Dream. And I want you to go and read through the program, because there's a long list. It would take me forever to go through the list of criteria. And then there's DACA. Okay. So on both of those are programs that will give you resources to do down payment assistance, and or some of them require classes for you to attend for you to get qualified to get the down payment assistance and to get access to resources to close out.
I love that. And so that helps assist with those first-time home buyers who may not have that $10,000 up front. They can actually pay for that closing cost so they can move forward. So now they're at the closing table. And I had this happen to me purchasing my first home. I was given a monthly rate that I'll be paying per month. But when I got to the closing table, it was different. It was either higher, and the attorney sitting there said, "Are you okay with that?" So when you're at the table getting ready to close, if that amount that they're telling you that's different, is someone able to say, "Hey, I want to go back to the previous amount," or they cannot? So that's a good question for those who may not know what happens at that closing table. They're there with the attorney, they're there with their agent, and maybe you can expound on who else is at the table doing the closing.
Well, honestly, I think in those situations, and like you said, that was your first time buying a home.
Mm-hmm.
So you weren't as diligent as you are now going through the process multiple times. Let me put something out here to you all. The lender is there to do one job. The agent is there to do a separate job. Sometimes the communication on your funding and the property itself is kind of lost in communication. So you have to be mindful that the law for Georgia says that you are supposed to see the HUD 3 days before you go to closing. You're supposed to get the terms for that. You need to ask emphatically from your lender, what am I paying a month? Where does this money go? How much is going toward principal? What is the term of this loan? It is your lender's job to break down that process for you and to dumb it down into simple terms. Do not accept lenders giving you very broad, detailed terms. It is the same reason that I said I'm going to put the resources on Commissioner Sanders' page, because I want you to read through the terms yourself. And when you have questions, we can come and simplify it for you in a conversation. But when you look at a HUD, there's a billion lines of information, and it looks like a crossword puzzle when you're sitting there and you're excited to close, signing too quickly and realizing that your house note is $300 more than you thought it was. Now, if in that process you say, listen, what is the mortgage? Can I see the HUD that I'm closing on? What do I need to bring to the closing table? I need to verify that. What needs to be sent over to the closing attorney? Verify that for me. Go back and verify it once, twice again. Have it sent to you via email. Because when you get to that closing table, you don't have to say, she said. The evidence is right here. This is what you said. Yeah.
So,
and don't be afraid. Right. Don't be afraid also, Elena, to ask for an amendment at the closing table.
That's what I wanted to get to. Could they?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That lender is on the hook for that transaction until the ink is dried and the wire is sent to the seller. Until it's closed, it's not closed. Mm-hmm. I have done many closings. I've done hundreds of closings. I've done many closings where you get to the table and they say, we're missing $3,000. We're missing $1,000. Wait a minute, this isn't supposed to be here. The insurance says that we need flood insurance because such and such and such. Adjustments are made on the spot. So don't be afraid of that process. Jump in and get it done, but do not sacrifice money for time. Take the time to go through the details and ask your lender. They don't do this text email thing. I hate when people do this text email thing when it comes to that. You want to get the details out via email, but also when you get an email, say, hey, lender, give me 5 minutes. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. My mortgage is going to be this much, and I'm on a 30-year fix, correct? How much is going toward principal? And if I want to pay this off earlier, how much more can I add to principal to pay this off earlier? If I wanted to refinance it to another bank product, can I refinance? And if I can, how long does it need? How many payments do I need to make before I can refinance? If you have those questions, write them down. When you get with your lender, go through those questions, because those things are going to determine how much equity you can access and when and how and when things are turning up. One thing I do want to throw out there also, Elena, for people that are purchasing, when you're purchasing in areas, ask the agent, and this is an agent issue, ask the agent what's coming up in your area. What's happening in this area? I'm buying this property. What's happening over here? Okay, so is there a park coming? I saw a park coming in. Is there going to be a building? Is that going to be an office park? Is that going to be, okay, so these houses behind me, are those going to be townhomes? Are those going to be apartments? Are they going to have a separate entrance? Is that going to affect my house, my home value? Is it going to push it up or push it down? How good are these schools? Is this a blue ribbon school? So at night, and one thing that you touched on that I'm glad you touched on, going to a property at night. A lot of times at night, you see stuff you did not see in the daytime. You need to see all of these things. When you're going, this is a lifetime purchase. You got to be serious and do your due diligence with this, because it's your job to get, it's your agent and your broker's job to get you closed, but it's your job to make sure you like it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Will, because that's some of the issues that I have as being a commissioner with various homes being built, and industrial stuff may be coming in and the homeowner had no idea. So don't be afraid to go to the planning and zoning departments in your city or your county, whatever jurisdiction you're in, to find out what's coming. And is that agent required to tell that individual what's coming in the area and being honest and telling them what's coming in the area?
Absolutely. It is the agent's responsibility to give you as many facts as you can to make a qualified decision. The agent is going to make money on whatever property you close on. Okay, so it's not against the agent's benefit or against them making money or anything for them to give you the truth. Because if that property doesn't fit, there's more properties. Agents, just like everyone else, work very, very heavily on referral. It is very helpful that every client they touch is happy. So your experience is important to them, and they need to understand that you know that their experience is important to them. So they better do their job, because they're making 3 to 6% of this transaction, and they have to do the work for this money.
That's right. So now that we are at the closing table, the ink has dried. What's next?
Well, I mean, move in and establish the dream, honey. Okay. Move in and establish the dream.
So let's speak on how important it is to pay that mortgage by the due date, how it can affect the credit of you having future transactions or even selling your home in the future. Let's speak on, once that ink has dried, you get your paperwork. They tell you when your mortgage due, how much you're owed every month, how much you need to pay every month. Let's speak on the importance of that.
Well, I will say this. There is something. Let me put a factual statement out there for you all to kind of quantify why this is important. A home is the first permanent, is usually for everyone the first and largest permanent tangible asset that they have. This is one of the largest purchases you will ever make. This is the only tangible asset that you can collateralize for additional funding for something else. Okay, so this is your single greatest purchase and your single greatest asset, and not paying for it on time will be the single biggest thing to bring your credit down to where even the Lord cannot find it. Okay. So I'll be honest with you, okay? Be careful. Pay your mortgage on time, okay? It is very important, because this home ownership opens up doors, and you know this. You can attest to this yourself, Elena. You close on a home, 2 months later, you're getting emails, you're getting text messages, you're getting CarMax calling you,
credit
and
card.
Drive Time and credit cards are calling you, because now you're an established person in a location, locked in. Home ownership sets the baseline for where your credit and your validity as a person in society begins. As soon as they see this person owns a property and they're paying their mortgage, Now they need a card. Now they need a credit card. Those things open the door for you. And believe it or not, it's easier to qualify for a house than it is to qualify for a car.
Why is that? Explain that.
Because you can tear up a car, but at least we know where the house is. Now, I can't prove that is true, but I think that is true.
In my mind. That is the words of Will Walker.
In my mind, it is true. Okay.
That is so funny. So now we've gone through the whole process of purchasing a home. So those who are renters, explain to us, Will, renting versus home ownership, the importance. Explain the difference.
Okay. When it comes to renting versus home ownership, it kind of goes back to the statement that I made. There is power in ownership. There is power in having a tangible asset. There is power in having something that you can collateralize for a loan. Now, I'll give you an example. You buy a home now, Elena, and you have had the house for 10 years. Now, this 5-year-old that you moved into the house with is 15. Now, they're going to high school. It's time for them to get into college preparatory programs. Your child has said, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a pediatrician. I want to be this. I want to be that. People don't realize what this tangible asset does. This asset is leverageable. If you need $40,000 to get your child into medical school, that equity that you have built over time from home ownership is what is used to, you can access that equity and put your children in school. And instead of having to take out a loan, you can increase the credit line on your house, get a HELOC, pay for your child's school, and you take $40,000 of equity out of a tangible asset, your home. It may increase your mortgage $200. So you want to increase your mortgage by $200 and have a paid ride for your baby to go to school, or you want to take out loans?
Yeah, that makes
and be crazy.
I'm glad you explained that. Yeah.
You get into a situation where you need some money. Your credit card debt is high. Everything is crazy. You got $100,000 of equity in the house. Take the $100,000 out, pay your credit cards down. It pushes your credit all the way back up to as high as it can get you above a 700. Now you can go in and refinance that home with that same equity again and get the rate back down and probably only increase your mortgage by $100 or $200. This is an asset that can be leveraged and moved around because it's physical, it's tangible, and unlike everything else on earth, there will never be more land. I want to make that clear. And that's the big point about renting. When you're renting, you are paying for someone else's tangible asset and you get nothing at the end. If you are owning, you're paying for your tangible asset and you have access to everything that you built inside of it. People, I'm from a small town. I grew up in a small city, and I knew too many people, Elena, that rented for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Then the owner of the house died, and it was passed down to one of the kids who was a snotty-nosed trust fund kid that put them out. She has been living in that house, or he has been living in that house. And anyone that's watching, I know you got an aunt that's been renting 20 years, an uncle that's been, and you may be renting 20 years. This one other option that I want to throw out there, and I want to put this out as a train of thought, Elena. A lot of people are renting right now properties that they could be owning. A lot of you can go get pre-qualified and take that pre-qualification and tell the owner of your home, hey, let me buy this home. I've been here 5 years. They'll sell it to you. The first thing to do is get pre-qualified. Find out what you can qualify for. That bank statement program, it is moving off the shelf like hotcakes. I'm telling you, that bank statement program is moving.
Wow.
So you all definitely, I want you all to reach out to me if you are looking at a bank statement program, or you're looking for some resources and you need to get pre-qualified. Even if you don't buy right now, get a picture of what that home ownership would look like for you. Get some real numbers.
Wow. That's good to know.
In Georgia right now, Elena, do you remember when we used to get an apartment for $800 a month?
Not anymore.
$900 a month. Now apartments are $1,600, $1,700, $2,500, $3,000 a month for an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
When you can have a home for a third of it.
Right.
We have to think about that. Home ownership versus renting, it's a dead argument. It's a dead argument. If you've been renting for 10 years, you have just given 10 years of your money away.
Wow. That's a good way to put it, Will. So we have gone through the whole entire process of getting you out of that rental property into a home. This is some valuable information. I hope this encourages someone to realize that I can start the process of being a homeowner. Now, Will, there were some of the things that we were speaking on that we were going to talk about today was commercial real estate versus residential real estate. Can you break that down a little bit for those who tuned in to want to know that piece?
Absolutely. Contrary to popular belief, some of the FHA programs allow you to buy commercial real estate, quads, duplexes, six unit buildings. If you are a person that's looking to not only purchase a place for you to live, but purchase an asset that's going to pay you, commercial is the way. Let me give you an example. I have multiple clients now, and I'm advising clients that are moving closer to retirement to, instead of buying a home for $500,000, $800,000, $1 million, buy a building with 4 units for $1 million. Live in one. FHA requires you to live in one. Rent out the other 3. If nothing else, the other 3 will pay your building's rent.
That's right.
And you live for free, and you're building an asset. And to all of the investors, I want you to be mindful that for what you're purchasing 1 or 2 homes for, you could purchase a commercial building, and commercial guidelines are a lot more lax than residential guidelines. So equity, HELOCs, lines of credit that are not available for residential properties are available on the commercial side. One of my primary sources of closing for clients is private money. There are multiple private money products that I have. One of them is a no-doc program where you can close in an entity and lease it back to yourself. This is not an FHA program, but this is one of my private money programs. But I can lend on this program because it will allow you to live there and own the property. Now, this requires a 650 credit score for you to put 25% down, or you can go all the way down to a 620 credit score and put 30% down.
And that's the commercial side.
Right. And the rates will vary from 4.3 to 6.8% in the interest rate. So I would have to give you a quote because some of that is based on DTI. So there's a lot of moving parts to the commercial. But for those that are seasoned or even people that are not seasoned investors that are looking to create an income, there is no better way to create an income than commercial real estate. The rental market is never going to be as saturated as the buyer's market because one home, one family. Commercial properties have a turnover of people, just like the people that are renting.
Love to hear that. That is awesome. Well, Will, you have given us some information today. I hope everybody was inspired to become homeowners or to be investors or to start their commercial property investment or whatever it may be. I want to get into that field. So I'm excited to hear this information. I'm excited to learn more as well. And for those who are looking to purchase a home and have questions for Will, I know a lot of people are going to have some questions. For people to have questions for you, Will, give them your information so that they can reach out to you to find out more information about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My website is businesscapitalfirm.com, spelled just the way it sounds, businesscapitalfirm.com. My cell phone number is 212-390-1198. That is office and sale, and you can text the number. So if you want to text, you can send a text and request information. We'll send information out to you. We are always live in our chat box. My admin is always in the box responding to messages. So if you have questions, you can ask questions on the website. So go to businesscapitalfirm.com, or you can text 212-390-1198, and we will answer your questions via text. And if you have more questions and you want to get pre-qualified, you can schedule a call on either.
Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, about home buying process today, especially here in the state of Georgia, commercial real estate, and so much more. This is Commissioner Elena Sanders with my good friend Will Walker, who always gives us information, who's been in the real estate industry for how long, Will? How long you been in the industry?
21 years, Elena.
21 years. So I want to say thank you so much for your insight. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with everyone so they know what to do and starting that next chapter in their lives. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Commissioner Elena Sanders, Will Walker, Home Buying Process, and you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Commissioner's Report with Commissioner Elena Sanders. Make sure you share with your family and friends, and remember to follow me on all social networks at Commissioner Elena Sanders. See you next time.